Hey guys, MWUSA Season 3, Episode 214, and I am here with 5AM. 5AM is an advantage player, plays blackjack, slots, and who knows what else. We'll find out here from him. Welcome to you, 5AM.
Thank you so much. Honored to be on the show. I'm not just like a friend of the show, but really someone that I binge every single episode every day it comes out. So
You're awesome. I didn't even pay him. I have no
that is true. That is true.
I got zero budget for the show. I don't have commercials or anything. So you live in Western Europe.
Yep.
Right. Can you tell me a little bit about life growing up and how it was, and did that contribute to you wanting to become an advantage player, or is it just something that you developed somewhere else?
Life growing up was pretty easy, like safe neighborhood whatsoever. And for some kind of reason, when I was young, I was very intrigued by the concept of money, not just getting rich, but just the concept of money, and then casinos. And then when the poker boom started with Moneymaker, I think it was 2005 here or something, that flowed over to Europe in 2007, 2008. Then I started playing poker at 13. I took my dad's credit card to deposit when I was 15, and from there I started playing poker for money, and that's kind of how I got into the whole casino world.
So how were you at poker?
Sorry?
How did you do in poker?
Pretty well. When I was 16, I bought my own scooter, so that was super awesome to get to high school and tell everyone, like, yeah, I just got this with poker. I was good. I definitely have the talent, but at some point the solver started to become too big. And then I just started noticing that my edge was declining. But I've played really big.
Okay, so when you finished playing poker, did you have a time when you didn't do anything, or did you go directly to the casino and start doing something else?
There were times that I didn't do anything, then get back to poker again, and then I started traveling 2 years ago, and I was out of poker, and then I realized there was blackjack, and I had to get onto that because it just perfectly fitted what I wanted. I wanted a lifestyle with traveling, but not working on a laptop too much, and this enabled it.
So, okay, you did a lot. You're doing a lot of traveling. You're going around the world, obviously. Do you speak a lot of different languages, or just one or two languages?
So I got my own language and English that are fluent, and then I speak a little bit of Spanish, German, and French, but
Wow.
really basic.
That's pretty amazing. So here in middle school, they try to teach people like French and maybe Spanish, and it's a big deal. They give them like a semester of each, and it's a big deal.
That's it.
Yeah, and people will speak Spanish most of the time. They'll do Spanish. My kids are doing Spanish actually right now,
That's
and it's
smart.
like a big deal. But really, it should be as early as possible, right?
Oh yeah, we get English on elementary school, so when you're like 6 years old, and then when you turn 12 or 13, you have to pick other languages. So you're gonna pick German, or no, you're gonna get German for sure, and you're gonna pick either French or Spanish with it, and then you're gonna get that for 5 years.
Wow.
But I must say, I'm not a great fan of the education system because it doesn't involve a lot of practicing. So at the end of those 5, 6 years, it's not like you can really. You're not at conversational level,
Really?
but you know the basics and it helps. Also with acquiring other languages. I recently started learning Spanish, and I just noticed that from knowing English and knowing French, I already have an advantage in learning that.
Wow, that's interesting. A lot of times here, once you finish like your fourth year, like a Spanish 4 or something like that, you'll go on a trip and actually go to that country and mingle with the people.
Yeah, we do that too.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's neat. Okay, so you said a couple years ago you started traveling?
Yeah, that was 3 years ago that I went for like big travels in South America when I wasn't APing yet.
Okay, so have you always been on your own, or have you been with a team?
I've always played on my own.
Do you prefer that?
I do kind of like to be on my own a lot. Like I never miss anyone. I'm never lonely. But I have practiced with some teams, and it's just so fun to share experiences because the world out there it can get pretty rough if you're on a downswing and you're just sleeping in your car every single night and nothing is going your way. You need people around you to vent that stuff because the mental toll it can take is really big.
Yeah, you say that you listen to the show and you see how I've been lately, how things have been a little bit rough, and not having anyone who really understands you and what you do. You can't just walk up to someone on the street and say, I lost 15,000 a day, but I know it'll be okay, but I'm feeling down.
Yep.
They'll think you're crazy that you lost 15,000.
Yeah, people that are not into gambling or not into APing, they won't understand those numbers. I feel like sometimes they can help me reappreciate the life that I'm living because of this, because there's a lot of freedom with it. But if you really want someone to understand you, You have to find someone that goes through the same as you. And in the beginning, if you're like going through your first N0 without making money, you're gonna find a lot of people that have been through that. But I'm currently at like the fourth N0, 600 hours in, and it's hard to find people that can actually relate what you're going through.
Yeah. Yeah, I can tell you, I'm going through a rough time right now in blackjack, but luckily slots are picking up some of the slack for me. So I'm still kind of continuing to get new all-time highs, but if I went through 600 hours, I would really be worried that I didn't know. Well, even though the numbers say that's going to happen, 2 standard deviations, that's going to happen. And that's happened to me a few times, for a couple days or a week, but not for this long. So what keeps you motivated when you go through the downswings like that?
Man, I don't even know. Like sometimes I really feel like giving up at this point. I knew at the beginning that there was going to be 400, 500 hour stretches, but this long I'm sometimes thinking, should I not do it anymore? But then I think, what's the alternative? I can go somewhere and work for a boss. I've always enjoyed working, but if I'm going to go back to working for a boss for, I don't know, 15 or 20 euros an hour, it just doesn't make sense. I can make way more on my own and I can travel every day. Every day I get to decide what to do with my life, and that's so valuable. Like if I want to travel to the other side of the world today, like tonight, I will take the plane. I can do that. If you have a job, there's just so much to handle.
Yeah.
And you get a lot less back for it. So I don't think I want to do it. Plus, I've come this far, and I've told myself this after 200 hours and 300 hours, like it has to end sometime soon, probably.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Do you have like a set schedule for yourself where, you get up at a certain time, you do things a certain way, or just however you feel?
No, I really do whatever I feel like. I just wake up mostly when I get burned out of my car, when the sun is just getting too hot. Then I go for a shower at Planet Fitness, and then I just move on and go from spot to spot and burn the places.
That's interesting. Do you try to get a certain number of hours in a week?
I hope to get in 100 a month. That would be awesome. But with the level we're playing, like mostly black chipping, it's going to be hard. So I'll be happy with 80 to 90 averagely this year. But if I make 100 at like a $300 an hour EV level, that would be great.
Yeah, I can understand that. So how big is your spread? Like 1 to 10, 1 to 20?
Yeah, so I'm doing 100 to one spot of 1,000. Or if there's two people on the table, I will do 100 to two spots of 800 probably.
So when you're doing that, on average, how long do you think it takes for someone to back you off? Do you get backed off most of the time? Does it take days sometimes? How does it work?
Different. Often nowadays I have that I walk into a casino and I've never been at the place or the chain, and they will, like I told you a few days back, I came into a casino and I was just looking at slots. I was in for 5 minutes, never been to the place or the chain, and they come up to me with a letter already with my name on there, everything, and they're telling me to leave and I'm trespassed. And then there's other times. There's been a casino somewhere where I played for 2.5 weeks, spreading 25 to two spots of 1,000, and I've played there every day for like 2-3 weeks, and they still haven't backed me off.
Are they part of a big company or?
Yeah,
Wow.
part of a bigger company, and they're just clueless. Well, it's actually really interesting because the day shift is completely clueless. But then if you come in the night, you will get a half shoe within half an hour. But they don't communicate with each other. So you come in the day shift, you're still welcome.
Wow, that's pretty amazing that you can do that. Wow, you threw me off there for a second.
It's crazy, yeah.
Yeah, there are some casinos, even in the city that we're in here, where certain shifts are so easy, and other shifts you have to worry about it. So I can understand that. So when you go into a place, do you just expect, hey, I'm going to be backed off in an hour and I'm okay with that? Or do you get upset when you get backed off quickly?
Yeah, this is something I really struggled with because I didn't really learn in my youth to be like go into confrontations and talk about certain things. So whenever something bad happens, like a back half, it's pretty confrontational, and I was always trying to avoid that, and I was feeling bad about it, and I would be happy in my car driving to the next shop because as long as I was in my car, I wouldn't get backed off and there wouldn't be the confrontation. So nowadays I set my mind to, okay, I'm gonna get in and I'm not gonna try to make as many hours as I can. I'm gonna try to get backed off, and then it's an accomplishment as soon as it happens.
Huh, I gotcha. How are the back offs usually? You said they're confrontational.
Yeah, well, it's not that bad actually. Like I would say 9 out of 10 times I would say 3 out of 10 times it's really nice, and then you got like 5 out of 10 times it's all right, and then you got 1 or 2 times out of 10 times they're like, I don't know, they take it personally, like I took their money or something.
So when you walk into a place, do they ask you for ID generally based on the way you look?
50-50, I would say nowadays.
Okay.
Depends also on like if I have a beard or not, or like a shaved hat, or if I wear my hat. If I wear my hat, I always get ID'd. If I take my hat off, I seem much older apparently.
Yeah, I think younger people wear hats more, and yeah, even me, and I'm obviously over 21. When I put a hat on, lots of times people will start to ask me for ID. Then I take it off. They're like, "Oh, sorry, Grandpa." I didn't know. But the reason I was asking you that is I know when I was in Europe, just to go into a casino, when I was in London, you have to give them ID, and so they know who you are right away. And if you buy in for over £1,600, then you have to create a card. But no matter what, you have to have ID. And from what I've heard, it's kind of more polite there for the back offs. Is that your experience?
Yeah, that's true. They won't back you off on the spot because over there often there's no staff on the floor that can identify a card counter accurately. So they will just, if you have a few chains, they just send their reports and their footage to another like a different company that just identifies card counters, and you will get backed off like after the weekend or the next day or something like that.
So if you're, oh, sorry.
Yeah, they will just tell you like, oh, sorry, you're not welcome anymore, and then it's the same as in the US. You ask them why it is, and then they're not going to tell you why.
If you get backed off, let's say in London, do you basically play 24 hours or as long as you possibly can because you're not going to get backed off the first time?
Yeah, this is what I would advise people that play in London or in the UK. If you have a really big session, you're gonna get backed off probably on your next session. So I would just extend that session as long as possible. But if you can keep it to shorter sessions, smaller wins, you should be fine.
Do they have limits how much you can cash out before you have to start giving personal information? I know here it's 10,000 Canada, it's 10,000 Canadian, and sometimes even earlier than that, like 5 or 6,000. What's your experience with Europe and the rest of the world?
In the UK, I just gave my passport with signing up, and they never give me a problem for cashing out. Also, not bigger amounts. They don't care. They already have your details. I do know that if you go to a place a lot and you buy in a lot with loose cash, they're gonna ask you for a slip, like a paycheck or something like that. As a former semi-pro poker player, I could give them some statements about poker, so I would send them like 3 months and I made tens thousands of dollars, and they would be fine with it. So that's something for people as well. I mean, you shouldn't forge documents, but I know it would be really easy to bypass those kind of things there. Other places in Europe, less regulated, I would say, and they don't really care how much you bring in or whatever. But it's always, wherever I go in Europe, you always have to show your ID at the door.
So when it's a regulated place, are they basically just trying to get the minimum paperwork so they can get you playing, or do you think that they really care that you can afford it or can't afford it?
They have to. In the regulated places, like in the UK, they have really strict rules about that.
So they care a lot about it. It's not just like, let's get whatever we can from them and get them back to the table.
They care about it because they have to, because of the government. I mean, personally, they are casinos. They don't care. Wherever you go, all the casinos only want one thing, and that's get your money.
Yeah. When I was in London, it kind of seemed like a bunch of like Eastern European guys dressed like, smoking their cigarettes, taking their time. They got a girl next to them, smoky area. Here it's more like a party atmosphere. Do you notice the differences here?
Yeah, it's more like a gentleman's club there with the ladies, and you got like the undercover prostitutes that are a little bit classier than they are here in the US, I would say. But the atmosphere is a little bit different. But still, everyone is pretty nice, I would say.
Yeah, and I noticed, or I've been told that, like, for example, in France, it's a lot harder to find a good game, a lot of CSMs and things like that. When you're thinking about all the different places you've been around the world, do they generally have good games? Is it usually the small, terrible-looking places that have a better game, or what are you noticing about different places?
In some places, the worse a casino looks like, the better game they sometimes offer to attract the people. And the nicer looking casinos, they often have shittier games because I feel like maybe they have to make up for how nice they are.
Yeah.
But in general, people that want to travel to Europe don't do Western Europe, like Germany, Netherlands, Belgium, France. Not really worth it. Like some of those countries I just mentioned, definitely you're not going to find anything. France, maybe in the south of France, but if you really want to get game, like go to the UK or go to Eastern Europe.
Then when you play in, let's say, Eastern Europe, do you have a problem cashing out their currency for a currency that you want? Or like I heard um, Munchkin talking about how he had all these Poland money and he couldn't get it to American money, and then he couldn't get it out of the country. Do you notice that there's like, for example, like Lebanon right now, if you look at the exchange rate, it's like 60,000, let's say, but if, on the ground you need like 1 million to get $1.
Yeah.
Do you notice that type of thing?
No, mostly the casinos will be in US dollars in some places, and if they have the euro, they will just do it in euros, so that helps. A hard part can sometimes be get the money out of the country. Some countries don't allow you to take out more money than you entered with, so that can be a struggle. But I mean, you can buy expensive goods, you can buy a Rolex to get it out there, or just take the risk, which I would not advise. But
Wow. And then getting across the borders, I don't have a lot of experience with that in Europe, but it seemed like it was kind of like here at an airport. They're going to ask you all the questions, and I guess you could have one watch, but you're not going to have 5 Rolexes or
no,
10
no,
rings
no,
or something like that.
no, definitely not.
So what do you do in those cases other than the obvious stuff that people know? Do you put it in a safe deposit box and come back later,
Yeah.
make multiple trips?
Yeah, sometimes you can leave it at the casino if you plan on coming back, which is pretty legit. I've done that in multiple places. What you can also try is to find people that want your cash and will give you Bitcoin or something like that. And sometimes in some countries you can even find shops where you can just like leave your money and transfer it to Bitcoin. I've been in places and I've literally visited the shop where I gave them $25,000. They sent me USD there, and they didn't ask for a single document of identification.
Wow. So what continent do you feel is the best for playing blackjack, let's say?
Eastern European, I would say. Although I really like London. I mean, London has a lot of casinos and different chains. So for a few trips, if you're spreading like black, you can make 40,000 in the UK EV. I would say if you take it the right way.
And in London, if you have those casino packs of money, then it's like easier, right? They're not
Yeah.
going to ask as many questions. It's like a shrink wrapped 2,000, I think, pounds maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have it in 500,000, 2.5, 5K. Because if you buy in with loose cash that is not sealed, you have a limit of like 1,400 or 1,600 pounds before you get to have to give your ID and stuff like that. And if you give them the packages, you can just give them like 30 grand and they don't care because they know the source of the money.
Okay. So I think you told me this is your second trip here, right?
It's good. This is my third one.
Third trip here. So how's your AV been compared to your EV on the first, second, third trip? Do you think there's a certain reason why it's that way, or just a matter of variance?
Yeah, there's a lot of variance, mostly negative. The first trip I was far under. I think I made like almost $70,000 in 2 months in EV, and the AV was minus 15,000, and that was over I think 250 hours. And the second trip I did, I went to that one casino I told you about with where I could just play for 3 weeks, and they had a surrender game, and that was really good for the swings, so that helped a lot, I think. But still, it's all so short term. You can never really judge your current state of variance, because 1 and 0 is just 1 and 0. There's every and 0 there's a 1 in 6 chance that you're going to lose money at the end of it.
Yeah. So have you kept pretty consistent with your bet spread for all 3 trips?
No, the beginning of the first trip I went 25 to 2 spots of 1,500.
Wow.
And I think that put me on top of every most wanted list there was, because I was just getting backed off left and right. However, at some point my dad came during that trip and he practiced basic strategy for like over 100 hours. So we did some kind of team play where I would just sit next to him and like bump his leg whenever he had to like deviate or bet more. And then we didn't get any heat for 2 weeks, so that was super interesting. And after that I downed my spread because I went to Chicago, Washington and Oregon, and those limits were much lower, often just $500. Or sometimes I find a game, it's like a single deck, it's just $100, but I pass through, so I just hit it as hard as I can for like an hour because I just think it's fun to do. So my spread ultimately got lower there. But now I up my spread again because actually after these 600 hours, I don't want to scale down again. I had a nice little bit extra influx of money, so I'm now playing with a 5% risk of ruin, which I'm willing to stretch to 10% just to get like a good EV to still keep myself motivated. And before I was just resizing every time I got to 2%, and now I'm just only going to resize when I'm down to 10% risk of ruin.
Oh, okay. So, all right, let's talk about a little bit about your most polite versus your most rude or aggressive back off that you've had, and let's just say in the U.S.
In the US,
You don't have to say specific place.
no, the polite ones that I always appreciate are like, hey man, your game is just too good for us, and that's it. And then I can easily leave. Did I have a bad one? The first time I was in Vegas, I was playing a double deck and I was just stacking up because I was buying in. And at some point I had a tower of green, and that raised a little bit of suspicion. And then the pit boss is called another pit boss over, and this lady grabbed the double deck that was played already, and she actually counted them through it, and she said, okay, we're going to shuffle. So she could actually count because the count was really high. And to experience that, I feel like that is cheating, because it's the casino sees that you are in a certain part of the play, which is completely normal, which I didn't influence. I didn't decide which cards came out, and only because now for this unique time I have the advantage, you're going to shuffle on me instead of shuffling two hands. I found that super rude.
Yeah, to me, I feel like that is cheating, and that should
Yep.
not be allowed.
True.
Because otherwise, they could just have, like, with the background machines, it reads every card, right, as they're pulling it out, and it displays it on the screen which cards came. So the machine could put a red light out once it's a positive count or a good count, and they could keep shuffling and just take your money faster and faster.
Yep. It's ridiculous.
It really feels like theft to me.
Yeah.
Have you ever faced, an aggressive security guard or police?
Yeah, but it was kind of my fault. It was in Canada when they basically told me I could play all day and I would be trespassed tomorrow because there was just no one in the house to trespass me. And then I wonged in one time because there was this big player, and I shouldn't have done that because yes, they said yes, sorry, that's the limit. We're not going to do it. So because I was nice to the player and I let him play a few hands and came in, of course, at the right time, they sent me away, and I really didn't feel like that was fair because they told me I could stay for the whole day. So then I got a little bit. I wanted a proper explanation from the pit boss, and he just didn't come. And I was like, I'm not going to leave before I get an explanation, because the guy was here before and he explained to me that he couldn't back me up, but I could play. And the guy wasn't coming. I said, I'm not leaving. I don't know, it just got to me for some kind of reason. And then at some point security came, and then I moved a little bit. I moved towards the pit boss, and the pit boss, I don't know, he was scared of me or something. I mean, you see me right now. I'm not the type to be scared of at all. And he just kept walking away. And then the security followed me. So we were like in a train, and they grabbed me with the arm. And then I was like, I slapped myself away and I said, you're not touching me. And then ultimately I left. But that's really not the way you should handle those kind of things.
So how was the player at the table? Did he say, why are you doing this to this guy?
He did nothing. Like, I gave him the courtesy to play his big hands, like the beginning of the shoe. And then when I was sent away because I gave him that, he did nothing. Like, that was...
Maybe he was annoyed with you coming in on the table. He didn't want you.
No. I waited and I already asked like a few times, like, hey, you want me to come in now? Or, hey, you lost a few hands. Maybe I can switch it up. And he actually told me, yes, please come in.
Wow.
And then he saw me be sent away because of him, and he did nothing.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
It really, I mean, he didn't like ask any questions. Hey, why are you doing this to this guy or anything? Did he know what you were doing?
No, but I was so upset that I told him, okay, guys, I'm getting sent away there. You guys got to know this is a really hot shoe. I'm a card counter. The count is this. This means you have about a 1.5 to 2% edge at the moment. You better bet big. I've done that multiple times, actually, but they never do it. They never bet bigger. I don't know if they don't trust me.
Either they don't trust you or they think they're going to get in trouble if they do.
Oh, maybe that.
I mean, have you ever had, like, you've seen the next card and you're like, what should I do? I had an experience like that, and I was betting like $50, and the next card was a 10 or an ace. I had like 700 or 800 in front of me, and I put the whole thing out there. The dealer knew too that I saw it, I put the whole thing out there, and I end up with like a 14, and I lose the hands. It's like, I have this big advantage having a great starting card, but
Yeah.
you know,
It's so tricky. Yeah, those happen. I think in the US, what they often do is they just burn the card if the pit boss knows it. But I know that in the UK, they have to deal it. And at one time, I think I had an ace. But I think only at like 2,000 in front of me. I still bet it. Didn't get the backdrive.
I had one time when the dealer told me, he's like, you should go big. I'm like, why? He goes, it's an ace. I'm like, I like kind of froze for a second because I know that if you're colluding, that it's a crime, and I'm like, well, I'll just go 200. I should have gone like my whole stack, and I don't remember what I got on that hand, but it's kind of like you told me and you know the law, so it's almost like you set me up.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what those people were thinking, like you were mad at them and you're trying to make them lose or something.
Oh, okay, that could be.
But you were betting high, so they should have known.
Serious. Definitely.
So you were telling me about a time when you had money stolen from you by a casino, and then you later on regretted that decision. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, that was a big lesson. This was still early in my US career, and I was not familiar with databases. I mean, I was familiar with the concept, but I didn't know the impact it would have. So I was protecting my identity still because it was not out there yet. At least my name was not. I was in OSM, but no one knew who I was. And then this, I can actually say it. It was in New Mexico, a casino. I think it was Sandia or something like that. And I cashed out over multiple times. I was structuring, but not to stay below 10K, but just like cashing out here, there, coming back into the casino, cashing it out, playing again, cashing out meanwhile. And then after 3 times, they told me, no, we have to see identification. Otherwise, you're not getting your money. I said, okay, I want my chips back. And she said, I'm not giving you your chips back. So I asked her, are you keeping the chips hostage? And she said, yes, she was. But it was a tribal, so there was nothing I could do. And then I worried, like, should I leave the 2,000 there and protect my identity? Or should I just give my ID and then be in OSN? Looking back on it, I should have given my ID because it's really not the end of the career. But one other factor was I had an extra 5,000 chips, I think, 5,000 in chips. And it was like, if I'm going to go there and give them another 5,000, if they already keep my chips hostage, are they going to steal the full 7,000? Like, they're known to be not that great to people. So I ended up not doing it, but someone else cashed the other 5,000 and I just left the 2,000 be there. I'm going to be there probably like in some time again. And I'm going to ask them if they still have my money. Probably
really?
they're not.
They might. Who knows? If it hasn't been too long, maybe.
Yeah,
but
I could try. I mean, I'm willing to give my identity. I mean, we were going into the casino recently, and you saw that I was pretty easy with giving up my ID. Like,
yeah, I'm like, what are you doing? You're just handing it over to him.
Yeah, but it was someone was in front of me who gave ID, and I was like, he's gonna ask me as well. I was wearing the hat as well, and I don't mind anymore because they're gonna find out soon, very soon, who I am anyway because they use a database.
Yeah.
I might be blocked at the door. That might be a bad thing, but I didn't feel like avoiding it. And what I do a lot nowadays is when I know that I have to show ID and they're scanning it, I'll just get a player's card sometimes. So it might help.
When you were at that Indian casino and you didn't show ID, had you cashed out like 10,000 for the day already?
No, not at all. I looked back at my records and I made $0 on that day. So I think I cashed out 3 times, maybe 300, 1,500. Yeah, 3,000 in total.
So did you at least wait till a different shift was there, or?
Yeah, different cashiers as well, like different shifts. Yeah, one in the day, one in the night.
And they still kept track of it.
Yeah, I think the thing that I did wrong was I cashed in chips when I came in, then played in the same area, and then wanted to cash out partially after winning again.
Yeah, at the same cashier area.
Yeah, same cashier area.
Yeah, I do that too. But I usually will wait until the cashier that cashed me out the first time will go on a break. I'll walk around, look at slots, and then come back. And sometimes, and I've said it recently on the podcast, I'll wait till there's no line and just walk up to an open window on the other side and hope that there's no problem. But, really, I should just keep chips. But I can understand you're moving on to another area. You don't want to hold on to $7,000 of their chips.
No, it's really tricky, but you're completely right. You should always wait for a new person, and if you can keep a chip inventory, that's the best thing there is.
So later on in your trip, you went to another Indian casino, and they backed you off right away, even though they didn't have your name. Is that what happened?
I don't think it was. I don't know if they flyered me. I was done pretty fast in that area. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so it was just in that same area you moved on, and they okay. I thought you were like across the country, same company or something like
Oh
that.
no, same area.
Okay. Um, so if you could play in one area and not be backed off, where is the best place to play based on everything, like the people, how nice it is, the weather, or whatever you want to think about? What area do you prefer if you could be there?
Um, it's hard to say the area without spoiling too much, but I would say pretty much Eastern Europe would be the best. There's a certain part there that has great games, rebates, everything, food. They got early surrender partially. So it's all in all, it's just a fantastic game. If you can play there forever, you can make thousands and thousands a day without a lot of variance.
So you're not there right now because you got burned out there.
Yep.
You can't go there anymore.
Yeah, I spoiled it.
Okay. All right. So now we're mainly talking about the U.S. here, but so I saw the place that you're staying a lot of the time, which is a car, and I wonder, like, when you want to get food, do you just eat at restaurants all the time? Do you go to grocery stores? Do you have a little grill, or how do you do your food?
Yeah, I eat out all day. And where I'm from, there's like a lot of places like single restaurants that are not part of a chain, but I noticed that everything is here pretty much a chain. And the food here, man, it's so different than in Europe. I didn't gain weight for 10 years, and then on my first US trip, after like a month, I looked down at my belly while driving and I was like, is that thing getting bigger? And then I got home and I added 5 kilos. And I mean, you can see me, I'm a pretty skinny guy, so that was very noticeable. So yeah, I always eat out. Like I can sleep very comfortably in my car, but besides that, there's no, I don't want to do the hassle of cooking and everything else. And the EV is good enough to allow myself to eat out.
Do you at least get fruit and keep it in your car, or
Yeah, I eat bananas.
bananas? Okay. So what's your favorite food in the United States? By the way, guys, we're at a Taco Bell parking lot in a dangerous city in the Midwest that you don't want to be in. We actually changed locations from the fish market because it was such a dangerous area. We moved over to the Taco Bell down the street.
Yeah, it was. It was. I always end up in the worst areas whenever I have to stay somewhere because I like to do everything as cheap as possible. What I really like is Chipotle. It's the only place where I can get like beans, rice, vegetables, and it's not like with some crazy dressing. And you can get a proper meal and keep it like really low on the calories and still be healthy. So I enjoy going there. And what I really like about the US, I mean, the food scene is crazy, but at the same time, you have such good food deals. You get coupons everywhere, and you can eat for really cheap or pretty cheap. It's just all very unhealthy.
So do you worry about your health when you eat, or do you just want something tasty?
I do worry about my health. When I saw that I was getting bigger, since then I really care about it. So nowadays I have these meal shakes. They're called Huel. You also have them in Soylent. I think they were the first one to make it, and that's very healthy. It's just all the minerals and vitamins, and I eat those at least 2 times a day. So I got my protein intake and.
Guys, this guy is not overweight at all. Don't let him tell you. 5 kilos means nothing. All right, 5 kilos is like my eating contest. That's nothing. So
You'll see it. You'll see it.
no, I mean, I see mine. I have to lose like, I don't know, 40 kilos in order to get in shape here. So what about like you play all these casinos? I know you do other things too. We'll talk about that too. But do you get comps? Do you get hotel rooms, free food, things like that? Because I don't hear you talking about that.
In the US, you mean, or outside?
I guess anywhere.
Outside the US, yes, a lot more because you always give your ID. So it's a lot easier. People know that if you don't give your ID in the US, it's going to be very hard to get comps. Outside the US, I have this really great thing, or I had it. In London, there was one casino, and I had such a bad run there, like a lot of negative standard deviations. And because of that, they put me, like I was some kind of VIP there. So what they did, every month I would be invited for a dinner with the table games manager. We get like super nice 3-course, super high quality food. And at the end of the dinner, they would give me £1,000, which is like $1,500. And that happened like every month for 4 months until I was backed off. So between Christmas and New Year's, there was a dinner, but I mean, those times are so busy. I just flew in on the afternoon, from I don't live in the UK, so I flew in there, just went there, took the dinner, quickly played like for an hour, and then left again back home at the same day at the same flight. I just went back because it was just so valuable. So those comms are really good. In the US, I had a few comms because I knew one place was pretty sweaty. I read that everywhere, and then I got a player's card with them, and I lasted for 5 days, and I'm still welcome there. And that's when the first time was that I experienced free play here can run up so much, because I would lose on the first day and they would just send me free play offers of $400, $500 every like second day. So I milked those. And I'm very excited to get back there.
So you learned how to take advantage of that stuff.
Yes, for sure.
So
video poker.
So what kind of casino food do you like?
Oh, casino food. I feel like there's always a deli with like the burgers, and that's about it. If there's a noodle place, I will get that. I also feel like sometimes in the casinos it's a bit overpriced, so then I rather just like do it in between shops. Go buy a McDonald's. Often I just take like one of their coupons for like for a hamburger, and then move on to the next one.
That's like me. People make fun of me all the time because I'm like, I go into a place and it's like McDonald's going to be $6 instead of, I want to get it for $4 instead of $6, and the coupon's not working, so I just won't eat. Then I'll just drive like 3 more hours for $2. Then I'll go to a slot machine and play $25 a spin.
Yeah.
And people laugh at that, but it's EV no matter what.
Everything in life is EV. That's I think the hardest thing for people that don't play to understand. Like, you're making these huge sums of money, and you're at the same time you're being super cheap on other things, but it's all EV, people. You gotta understand.
Yeah, when you look at your chart, you're like, okay, I played 500 sessions and I'm ahead this much money. It's only like 200, 300, 400 a session. Even though the one day I made 8,000, the next day I made 2,000, it all balances out. So if I waste an extra $20 a day, in the end of the year, now that's $7,000 gone, and people don't think that. People, anyway. But so other than blackjack, I know you played poker, and now you're playing some slots?
Yep.
So what got you into slots?
I met a guy who cashed those Sandia chips, and he cashed them for me, and he said, yeah, I did blackjack too, but I'm full-time slots now. And he was traveling the country actually playing slots, and he made $200 an hour. And that just really amazed me. I mean, the first time I heard someone telling me they could beat slots, I just thought they were a degenerate and justifying their own play, but it's actually possible. And then I remember my first US trip, you told me about it, that you do it a lot. So I asked you if you knew like 2 plays that could like help me a little bit. And then, I mean, I do like playing slots. It's just a good chunk of dopamine real quick.
Yeah.
So I try to look for it every now and then. But right now I'm kind of struggling with how much heat does it bring if I first go to slots and they see me like actively looking for plus EV slots, and then go to the blackjack table, then they probably know I'm an advantage player.
Well, I think by the time they back up the camera, then they're already suspecting that you're doing something. So I don't know if it's going to bring that much more or not. Usually I'll play slots, then blackjack, I can go back to slots again, and then leave a casino.
Yeah, true. Yeah, you try not to get burned at places, but I will always be burned at the end of a session somewhere. So for me, it could be like an extra checkbox.
Yeah.
I'm like,
for you, if you're going to play slots with a card, you definitely shouldn't play blackjack there.
That's true.
Yeah, I remember the place that you and I met was about a mile away from the casino. And I remember you're like, man, I've been there for a week. I'm like, really? I can't believe you've been at this casino for a week. And it was the dirtiest, nastiest bar you've ever seen. And you were laughing because the people in the bar were singing happy birthday to one of the customers. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and another player that I met through the podcast introduced us to each other. And it was like the nastiest bar you've ever seen over there.
So random. That was so random.
I used to have property in that neighborhood. And I had this lady, really, really big, overweight black lady. And she lost her rent money on the first of the month. She gets money from the government, and she lost it, and she couldn't pay me. So she said, yeah, I was riding the bus from the casino. My property was on the same road as the casino. I was riding the bus from the casino home, and I had just won a jackpot, and this white guy held me up and took my money. That's what she said. It was a lie. It turned out that she lied. And then later on, she admitted that it was a lie because I was always really nice to her. And it's like casinos are, everywhere you go, like in the city that we're in right now, everywhere around all the casinos is so run down, especially the one casino that's a little bit further out. And even the neighborhood that we're in right now is only 5 minutes away from the casino, and it's so run down. And it's, I know BJA did a podcast recently about are casinos evil, and I disagree with a lot of the stuff that they say, because I've seen it on the ground. I've seen them bring old people in and abuse them and take advantage of them. I knew a guy who actually came in with a social security check, and they waited till he ran out of money and they kicked him out of the casino. It was cold outside and he had no way home, and I ended up driving him home. I was so disgusted with them.
Man.
So
Casinos are one of the only businesses that will only stop until you're completely homeless or whatever. Like,
yeah,
even liquor stores, if you tell them like, yeah, I gotta like take an extra mortgage so I can fund my whiskey bottles, they will probably tell you not to do it. A casino, they would cheer on it.
yeah.
Like, I hate them so much.
I've seen those things too in the news where like a lady inherited $1 million and she lost it all, and she had written checks to the casinos, and they knew that she lost all the money and her house, and they still sued her for that other money that she still owed them. And they would invite her in, even though she told them that she had a gambling problem. They would say, well, come on in, you might get lucky, at least play the 500 free play that we give you or something. That's just terrible.
The brain.
Yeah. So when you're driving around, well, do you mainly you drive around, right? You bought a car,
Yep.
and you're driving around,
Mhm.
and you're having some trouble with the car right now, which is ridiculous. But so what do you do with your time when you're traveling? What do you listen to? What kind of music? What kind of podcasts? What's in your Spotify or Apple, whatever you listen to?
Yeah, first of all, always MWUSA. Especially what I really like is the how much did you tip today, MWUSA. I always love that part because I have been over tipping a lot, and it's always a good reminder that you don't have to do it. Besides that, there's a lot of podcasts from my first language that I listen to, and a lot of hip hop, R&B stuff like that I listen to. But what I really appreciate is that since you're driving so much, you get a lot of time to think about life and think about people. And I feel like I've been in contact with a lot of people that I would normally be in less contact with, even though we would be closer to each other. So it's a nice time to reflect on life.
So do you go down the street and you're dancing to the music and stuff, the hip hop and all that
I'm
stuff?
singing and dancing and everything for sure. Yes.
Do you have like a light in your car that turns and there's like lights everywhere and stuff like that?
No, but I have these things that you can put on these sun blockers so people don't see I sleep in my car. And the reason I bought them is someone gave them the review. Yeah, you can light a disco bulb inside your car and no one outside would notice.
That's awesome. So I heard you told me that you listened to one of my podcasts about my friend who got the license plate cover, and you're working on that. Just be careful with that. Don't get caught with that.
True.
Yeah.
I hope that's gonna help me and like change my look drastically.
So right now, do you park down the street from a casino, or do you normally just go right in their parking?
I go always in, except for when I know that they have license plate scanners. Then I will park off property if possible.
Most of them do. But in the U.S., you can get a new license plate. Just pay like $40.
Yeah,
get a new one.
You told me about that. I should maybe get into that too. But I like the license plate hider thing. It makes me feel like a secret spy.
Yeah, 007.
Exactly.
Yeah. So and then changing your look, I feel like just looking at you, you're kind of like me. If you change your look, it's still pretty obvious who you are. Like, I'm not gonna be able to hide. Like, a lot of these guys are like average looking, average size, they blend in. You and I don't blend in at all.
That's what you said when we met the other day. You said, yeah, you're really out of place here. And I was like, shit, I always have that feeling here.
I saw you from across the parking lot. I'm like, that's got to be him. Because look, and when you're from another place too, our mannerisms are a little bit different. How we act, what we do with our hands and things like that are totally different. And the neighborhood we're in here, there's an ethnic area here too. And the people here, you know who they are from far away just by how they're waving their hands and talking to each other and stuff.
Yep.
Or yelling at each other a lot of times.
Yes.
So, okay, well, is there anything else you want to add?
I'm thinking, but I think we covered pretty much everything in my career.
Your whole career?
Yeah. I mean, it's just one year long. I hope for the next year I'm gonna make like a team and hit those areas that I'm burned, and then with the team. And then
go take advantage of those people that kicked you out.
For sure, we're gonna make them hurt.
Are you planning on doing anything else, sports betting or anything else like that?
I did sports betting in my country, but I'm banned from almost every site, so that was very short-lived.
it makes me wonder, like, and I've mentioned this before, like RX Gamble and some of these other people that they're doing it for a living. It's like, it doesn't make any sense to me. So if something is minus or plus 110 on both sides, and you're betting $1,000, you're not making that much money. So now you have to have a bunch of accounts. Now you're worried about legalities and stuff like that. Is it worth it, or is it like not punishable if you use someone else's account? I don't understand how these guys, because if I'm making less than 1,000 in a day, I'm mad at myself. How do these
But
guys
you have
make
high
1,000?
expectations. You have very high expectations.
Well,
No, these guys are like, I think they don't really do arbitrage a lot, but they just have their own data sets, and
oh,
because of that, they know the line sometimes better than the.
so it should be minus 200. It's minus 180, so I take it.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, they don't play out the different websites against each other, but they really just. I remember someone told a story like long ago that in a certain ballpark for what is it, baseball, that there was always a lot more wind. Let's say it was Chicago. So because of that, if the wind was good, then there would be a lot more home runs. But the line for the home runs was the same in every stadium, and he found out that of course there's more home runs in at the Chicago Cubs, for example. So those kind of things, that's the things they are looking for, like very simplified set.
Yeah, yeah. Horse racing people do that too, and especially in like Asian countries, they do a lot of betting on horse races, and they'll bet multiple horses in the same race because they know that they're undervalued, and they don't care if they win or lose. They know that long term everything will catch up and they'll make a profit long term. So.
Yep.
Yeah, it's so hard for me to imagine that. I want to walk in with X amount of money and leave with a little bit more,
Yep.
And then if I leave with $5 less, like this last casino I just left, I lost 260 something dollars on this one slot machine, and I was coming to meet you, and I'm like, I said to a friend of mine that I saw there, I'm like, man, I wish there was one more machine that I could play on my way out, because I don't want them to have a penny of my money.
True, it's
These
so
guys,
bad.
I don't want them to take my money
They
at
don't
all.
deserve it. We come in with an advantage. We should always leave with money. That is.
And doesn't that like hurt the most when you know it's like a true 5, and then you get a 14 against a 10, and you know you're going to bust, and you can't avoid it, and they're like, well, you might be okay. You might get a 6. I'm not going to get a 6.
No.
It's
there
plus,
are no sixes anymore.
plus 15 running count with 3 decks to go. I'm not getting a 6.
It's horrible.
Do you ever do any other kind of side bets or side counts or anything like that? I've done some stuff with aces, and actually the casino here, we'll talk about it after the podcast. There's a game that I beat all the time. Do you do anything like that?
No, I haven't done it. I know a few places where I've been. They have some countable games. I must say, I do take the Lucky Ladies and the King's Bounty whenever it's there. But besides that, I'm not counting it. I know there's quite a lot of people actually, especially in around this, not this area, but these countries that do count just the side bets. But
Yeah.
for me, I like the EV on the blackjack better.
Yeah, I wish I could count like 3 different side bets at the same time, but it's like you got to use your time, the best way that you can, and your brain power. And if you're earning 0.1% more and you're frying your brain, you can't play anymore. It's not worth it.
No, sometimes what I do, I was at a casino recently where they had a $300 table max. So if it's that low, I just max out at a true 1. But they had a side bet with aces, and if you get like, oh no, sevens, and if you get like the 3 sevens of the same suit, you win money. So what I would do, it was a 6 deck. I had 4 stacks of 6 chips, and I would just take one off every time a
I
certain
do the
seven
same
would
thing.
be out.
I do a similar thing. There's a place nearby here that does that actually, and I tried to do it there, and it's like all the sevens came out like the first 2.5 decks, and I'm like, oh, okay, it's burned.
Yep.
Yeah.
It just makes it fun.
I do that with aces on a double deck too, and if there's a lot of aces, then my true count's a 3. That it's really like a 3.5 or a 4 because you're getting 3 to 2
Yep.
on the blackjacks. So
That's true.
anyway, all right, I'm not going to hold you up forever. Thank you for doing the podcast. Thanks for everything. And anything you want to say to anybody?
No, shout out to all y'all out there grinding every day and make them heard. Thank you for the podcast. I think everyone is enjoying it a lot, and they don't get to say it always because they're always just sitting in their car driving. But we appreciate what you do and keep it up.
Thank you. All right, guys. That's going to be it for now. If you have any questions or comments, the email is mwusa21@gmail.com, mwusa21@gmail.com. See you next time.